November, OUTshine Film Festival's Fort Lauderdale Virtual Edition, featuring queer films from all over the world. Presenting 18 feature films and 3 shorts programs, plus a drive-in movie night at Pier 66. Watch the best LGBTQ plus films from home. Tickets are on sale now. Check out the program at OUTshineFilm.com.
Hey everyone, happy Outshiners. I'm Joe Bilancio, Director of Programming here at OUTshine. We're so excited to have a question and answer today, the film Walking with Shadows, and we're very, very excited to have with us the producer, Olumide Makanjuola. How you doing? Oh, he's coming in. I see it's loading. There he is. Welcome,
Hello.
welcome, all the way from Nigeria.
Hello.
We're so happy to have you. And look forward to spending some time with you. Can we start by setting the tone? The film is set in Nigeria, and I think we as a community think we know what happens in Nigeria, but can you talk a little bit about sort of the gay and lesbian community, if there is one, and sort of how that, just sort of set the tone of Nigeria, put us into the setting?
Thank you so very much, Joe. Of course, there is a very huge, LGBTQ community in Nigeria. There has always been an LGBTQ community in Nigeria. However, what has happened in the last decade has been an increased visibility, which we can actually, talk about, technology, social media. That connectivity of technology and social media coming together has helped to create more visibility and how people connect. I mean, I remember vividly well when I started, connecting with queer people as a queer man myself in Nigeria. We connected without social media, and then there came Gaydar many years ago, and then there came Men Jam, Gay Romeo, and all of those things. But fast forward to the last decade, one of the things that has happened is that social media and technology, internet, has made it possible beyond what we can imagine on how people connect. So there is more visibility now. There is more, connection that is happening at the community level. Of course, that doesn't take away the fact that people still live in an isolated, community. People still live in a country where the law criminalizes, who they are, so that's still that reality. But there is a huge LGBTQ community in Nigeria.
Well, thank you for that. I always like to set that background because I think people think about one thing and it may not be the reality. And there is such a cultural aspect to the film that I found so interesting and unique and warm, and I appreciated that. How did you get involved in the project?
I mean, so my career has spanned around LGBT activism in the last 12 years. I used to work as the executive director of one of the leading LGBTQ organizations in West Africa, the Initiative for Equal Rights. And in 2014, actually in late 2013, when I became the ED, I decided to use film as one of the ways to tell story, also as one of the ways to change heart and mind, because I do think that one of the biggest tools that we have in social advocacy is storytelling. In book, in film, in however form we want to tell a story. So I started producing gradually in 2014, starting with short film, starting with series and all of that. But Jude, the writer of the book, happens to be a friend of mine. Actually, we became friends because he wrote the book. Because when I read the book as a gay man in 2006, I'm like, I'm going to be friends with this man. I'm going to be a friend with this man. So we became friends, and fast forward to when I became the ED of the Initiative for Equal Rights. I reached out to him that we wanted to produce the film. Was happy then, but we didn't have the resources. And then coincidentally, my co-producer, who also happened to be a friend of mine, Femi Yoda, then got the right. And then later, everybody came together and we're like, what, this story just wants to be told. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. And that journey in itself began in 2016. the journey to from option in the book, trying to get the team together, trying to look for the resources, which was the biggest challenge of it all, looking for resources. But it's how I got involved, of producing this film. And also because I've also produced all the series and content around LGBT rights before then. So it was quite easy to just be involved.
It's good to have friends, and working with friends is really fun and unique. Yeah. I'm glad you got to experience that. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the adaptation from the book to screen? Was it pretty true? Were there things that had to be changed maybe to make them more filmic, or did you need to focus on one thing as opposed to another? For those of us who may not have read the book, unfortunately, like me, but can you talk a little bit about that adaptation? I know the director also did sort of the screenplay, if you will.
So, I mean, one of the quite interesting things with the storytelling, because as you know, the director is Irish British. So, and one of the things we did, myself and my co-producer Femi, was we were very quite heavily involved in the writing, because we wanted to ensure that we didn't lose the cultural nuances of the story. Very involved in the writing, very involved in the post-production editing and all of that, to ensure that the story kind of reflected that Nigerianness that we wanted to showcase, from the angle of a queer man. But what we did decide to do with the film was that we decided to heavily focus on the main actor, which is Adrian Njoku. If you watch the film again, you realize that a lot of the story was very heavily centered around him. We removed some part away because we didn't want to kind of distract away from him as the main character. So what we did was to center the character around him, but also around his world, which was Ada. So center the character around him and then Ada, and then the people, around them. And that was very deliberate, because one of the things why it was deliberate to center it around Ada and Adrian is because oftentimes when we speak about the situation for queer men, we also don't talk about the experience that women in the marriage often experience, and that makes everything difficult for everybody. So Ada's character was also very quite important for us, but also how it connects to Adrian. So it was very quite important for us to focus on Adrian as a character. Everything you have in the film is what you have in the book. Of course, we didn't we didn't go exactly the way it was in the book. There was a character, for people who have probably read the book, there was a character in the book called Rotimi. We had initially filmed Rotimi when we did the filming, but when we post-production, we removed Rotimi away because we felt it was going to be a distraction to the story in itself. So there were some things that we filmed that we had to remove away because we felt it was going to be some kind of distraction to the main story itself. We wanted to really focus on Adrian, and Ada.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we were talking about that earlier, that Ada is such an important character, and so often in a story like this you forget a point of view other than the main focus. So I appreciate it, and I give you kudos for putting that into the story in such a strong point of view. How did you find the actors, and was there any question, like was it difficult to find actors who are going to be in a GLBT film? Or is that not even a consideration? Which I would love to hear the answer is yes, but know that that's not always the case.
I mean, everything is difficult, in most places, especially within the continent in Africa, especially when you want to tell this kind of story. Bearing in mind that a lot of people, cultural awareness and understanding around this issue of LGBTQ generally is very quite limited. But what happened was that before we did Working with Shadow, I had built a lot of friendship and connection within the Hollywood film industry. I produced several, couple of other LGBT related subjects matter. So that kind of created a soft landing for us. But of course, you will still have to find an actor who could actually embody the role. That was one of the most important things for us. Adrian, the guy who played Adrian Oziagu, is such a fantastic on-screen, actor. He was amazing. He embodied that role so well. He was also very quite particular, not just going for big names within the Nollywood film industry. We're particularly about going for people who could embody the role. So that was a journey. We did public casting, which is also one of the things not very quite common within the industry. The public casting. Actually, Adrian Njoku, played by Oziagu, he was casted from a public casting. Unlike Ada did her own screen test separately. Ada is already an established actor.
Yeah, they were all, top to bottom, they were top notch, and so kudos for for you and for the director getting the most out of these people. So, again, greatly appreciated. You mentioned Nollywood. I don't think people realize that there actually is a film community that's quite huge in Nigeria, but also your film sort of has roots in the UK and in Nigeria. Was the UK just financially based, or were there things done in, talk a little bit about how you worked within both of those communities?
I mean, so my dear friend Femi she was the first woman who interviewed the first gay man who came out on TV in Nigeria, and she almost lost her show for that many years ago. So she then moved to the UK and then opened a production company. So it was a co-production between a co-production company in the UK and us in Nigeria. So that's why we had to do a lot of things in the UK. We did a lot of post-production in the UK, and a lot of some of the crew we also had from the UK. The director was based in London, the cinematographer was based in London, the editor was based in London. A lot of the post-production crew were based in London, but the main crew we did the filming itself were all based in Nigeria. I think during production in Nigeria, only non-Nigeria on set during production was the director and the cinematographer. So it was based on the fact that also the co-producer of this film from me there was already has our own production company in London. So it made things quite easy to run it both within Lagos and London. But also finances also was always one of the problem, in the sense that when we did the film, we were doing the film in tranches because we didn't have the full resources. So when we did the production finish in Nigeria, we had to send the footage to the UK and waited for a while to get that money to do some part of the editing, and then get that money again to do some part of the editing, and then get that money again and do some part of the editing. And it was easier to do that with a studio that you're already familiar with within the UK. So that's one of the reasons why it was pretty quite easy like that. And Hoya, the production company is registered in the UK and Nigeria.
This was the first feature, if I'm correct, for the director who'd done some shorts. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because quite often, you sort of feel the energy, and to me that was sort of part of it. But it also can be difficult in some time, because you're just like, you're almost figuring things out for yourself and with each other, and it can be happy and sad moments. Can you talk a little bit about how you felt like that first feature impacted the process of what you were doing?
I mean, it was quite amazing to have worked with the director. She was very ready to learn. Let me put it that way. Like she was, she asked questions, she's, seek clarification where she needed to. And one of the most important part of this was that, she also wanted to understand the story. She wanted to tell a beautiful story. It was her first feature. She wanted it to be a great outing. So it was, she was hoping, which I don't think sometimes is not always very common with directors who are directing the first feature film. She was very open to learning, to engaging, but also what was also very quite important is that she was also working with one of my co-producers for me that already had almost 20 years of experience in film and television. So she brought that also on board, which was also quite helpful for her, So I think when you work with people who are open to learn and open to engage and understand, it makes it easier, to do the work. And I think when we're doing Shadow, Fumi actually recruited the director. She was very clear about looking for a director that was willing to learn, because this was a director that was Irish, first of all. Then secondly, she was dealing with a subject that was outside of our own contextual reality and cultural reality. So the only way she could actually nail this story was to be open to learning, and I think she did that, and I think that's why we have such a beautiful film now.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's so many layers, and she, I think she definitely understood the subject, and that shows. Can you talk a little bit about the process of, like, how long did this take? Because again, I think people watching think it was easy peasy, and they don't realize that there's so much background. And as a producer, the amount of work you have to do before anything even happens. So talk a little bit about sort of from the writing, we call it soup to nuts or A to Z. How long was that process?
I can say to you that, for example, for the writing, before we finally found, Ifa Okeli, we had commissioned other screenwriter, more than 6 that we didn't use. We had paid people who wrote, but we didn't like what they wrote. So the whole journey in itself started from 2016 when we started looking for writers, and then in 2017 we found did all of the contracting, did all of the screenwriting. The screenwriting itself took about almost 4 months. 4 months to write fully, and then editing, script editing and all of that. But we didn't start filming until September 2017. And I remember very well that we filmed for 35 days non-stop, no break throughout. And then we started post-production in 2018 and completed post-production in 2019. Which was quite, we didn't finish post-production until 2019. And then we had our first world premiere at the BFI Film Festival in 2019. So technically, the production of this film started from 2017, actual production, and it didn't finish until 2019. So roughly about 2 years of making Working with Shadow. So it was a work in itself. Like the process of making Working with Shadow was a work in itself.
And well worth it. It's again, it's just you can tell the love and the craftsmanship that went into it, and I'm sure the audience appreciated that. Has the film been seen in Nigeria, and what was the reaction? And do you see a different reaction like in different places?
We had a massive premiere in Nigeria at the African Film Festival. So just as we finished from the BFI Film Festival in London, we headed to Lagos to have a Nigerian premiere at the African Film Festival, and it was such a magnificent turnout. I mean, if you Google Working with Shadow Nigerian premiere on Google, you will see some of the image. It was such a packed house. Like it was such a magnificent outing. The entire film industry had to support friends, family, but it was also a conversation starter. And for me, this is one of the reasons why I got into producing. I just wanted to tell stories that can commercially resonate, but also can also resonate on a human level. And I think a lot of people who saw the film in Nigeria could also kind of connect to the story, whether through their friends, through their brother, through people they knew within the area. So there was that welcoming. But what we should not forget is that welcoming was possible as a result of the many years of work and also still continue of work that is happening in LGBT advocacy and activism in Nigeria. That's why that was possible. A few years ago, you couldn't do what we did with Working with Shadow. You couldn't be held to do that. So that was possible, that outing and that acceptance was possible as a result of the many work that's gone into a lot of advocacy work around LGBT rights in Nigeria.
Yeah, and I'll sort of we need to come to an end, but I'll sort of go back to I think where we began talking about Nigeria and the state of GLBT affairs in Nigeria. And you talked a lot about looking for books and film and culture that represented the queer community. Do you think that film, and especially a film like this, can be a change agent, can actually, make some inroads into that, that hostility towards the community? How do you feel about that?
Yes, it can. It really does can. I remember the first short film I did called Hello High Water is available online now. And one of the things that was so inspiring was a lot of people who saw the film talked about how it changed their point of view, how it created a better understanding. I really do feel film can create a better understanding. I feel like it can be a cultural buffer between those who don't know and those who want to know. And I think it's important that we tell stories in a range of different ways. There isn't one way to tell queer people's story. There isn't one way to tell a gay man or a lesbian woman or a bisexual person or a trans person or an intersex or non-binary person. There isn't one way to tell this story. I think what is most important is that we have to tell a wide range of diverse story of our community. And that's what I'm quite interested in. That's what I want to tell. And I think that, in the long run, we must agree that film, books have played a magnificent role in shifting heart and mind. We've seen it in other parts of the world. It has played some kind of role in the US. It's played some kind of role in Europe. It's played some kind of role in many places. Because as new generation of younger people are emerging, we must provide them with tools that can create a culturally resonating content and awareness of who they are. Something that lets them understand that, being a hoarder is not wrong. So when you come across people who self-identify as gay or lesbian or bisexual or trans or intersex or non-binary person in school, it's okay. Because what we are doing now in the context of Nigeria is to ensure that by the time the young generation of this generation are growing, they are able to create a better environment for LGBTQ person. My generation didn't have that, and I'm hoping that we will have that at some point. But what is most important is that films both can help shape the coming generation and how they understand the subject. But that's what we didn't have in my own generation.
Well, and thank you for creating a better generation, not only for those in Nigeria, but from all over the world. It truly is magnificent what you and, thank everybody for providing such a wonderful, warm film. I know our audiences loved it. Please keep working so we can have you back. But thank you, and stay safe, and we appreciate all you do. And again, just a remarkable, beautiful film, and we thank you for the opportunity to screen it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing the film, and I hope everybody enjoyed the film. I hope that I get to come back with another of my films sometime in the future.
We'd love to do that. Thanks again.
Okay, bye.
I had the strangest phone call today, Adrian.
I didn't dare to leave a secret.
This was another lifetime. Before I met you, Ada.
It's all lies. Isn't it, Adrian?
There's some truth in it.
If your personal life is affecting your work and your colleagues.
If I had told you about my past, you never would have given me a chance.
That is not a decision for you to make.
It's good you came. You see, the Holy Spirit spoke to me about you.
I remember you.
We go way back.
Why are you doing this to us? I gave you everything.
This is a sin.
You're a coward. Get out!
Sooner or later, something must kill a man.